Hey there YouTube, welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer, and this is video 2 of my Ravenloft campaign setting adventure. So just a quick update as to what's going on with it. So the characters did make their way to the bonfire, and at that point were able to get somewhat of rest and recuperation before going into the evening. What can go wrong there? Great. But without further ado, let's get into the video. But before I do, if you like the video, please click the like button. Lets me know you like the content, and I'll keep making more of it. And if you are new here and you have not subscribed yet, please click that subscribe button, followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you'll get a notification so you do not miss one. So without further ado, my friends, let's venture back into the world of Ravenloft. What could possibly go wrong? As evening begins to fall over the land and the sun falls beneath the horizon, once again mysterious green lights begin to dance from the sky, looking like green wisps of daggers stabbing down from the heavens towards the earth. At that point, Bjorn opens his eyes, confused. He turns his attention towards a crackling warm fire, and then up to the heavens, and momentarily stares upon the sky in awe of what he's seeing in the landscape around him. Panic begins to, at that point, set in on Bjorn, and he utters at that point, "Oh, by the gods, what kind of magic is this?" It's at that point he hears two familiar voices that step from the shadows towards the firelight to ease his mind of, at this point, this state of weird anxiety that he is feeling. The familiar voice he hears is Ezekiel, the cleric. He walks around the fire and approaches him and says, "There, my friend," he says, "you've been out for a while. You sustained some serious wounds. I thought we had almost lost you. Luckily, with the will of our great Lord Odin, he has gifted you life once again and taken you from the clutches of the spirit world, of the afterlife of the halls of our Father, and delivered you back to us to serve the purpose of the king and of our people, brother." It's at that point they nod at one another and aye, they say. He hears another familiar voice of Talu as he steps out from the shadows towards him. Talu says, "It's good to see you again on your feet, my friend." He says, "I didn't think we would have the strength to carry you across these blasted lands." He said, "Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to take rest for much longer." He says, "I was doing a scout, and I had noticed another bonfire light, or what appears to be flickering a little bit further to the north of our position." He says, "I think if at this point, considering we have no food or any other rations here, if we do not eat something soon, we're going to perish in this cold. We should, at that point, at least try to make our way to the next fire site. Hopefully they have rations. We need something to be able to sustain ourselves. He says, so, old friend, are you able to make the journey? Bjorn looks at him and nods, and he says, I shall be able to. Just give me a moment more by this fire to gain some more warmth. Talu nods at him in agreement, and he says, take the time you need, my friend. I must prepare a couple of things before we make our way. At that point, as they are preparing their items that they need, Bjorn is staring into the flames of the fire and warming his hands and more or less trying to comprehend his thoughts and everything that has happened so far and this state of confusion in which he's in. And every once in a while, Bjorn looks up towards the heavens to see the eerie green light that dances upon the earth, reflecting off of the snow. Something catches his attention, and as he looks over the top of the flames and the embers that come off of the fire, going up into the eerie green lit night sky, he sees a silhouette of what appears to be a human approaching the fire. He squints to get a better look, and he can't really make out anything other than he can tell by the size and the way it's lumbering towards him. It looks to be human. Taking no chances, Bjorn at that point takes his battle axe into his hand, and he says, "Aye," he says, "two of you, take a look at this. Someone's approaching the camp." He says, I don't know who it is, but whoever it is, it's something just doesn't feel right to me. Talu turns his attention towards what Bjorn is looking at, and Talu at that point looks over at Ezekiel and says, "I'm going to take cover over in the trees. Hopefully I won't have to kill whoever it is, and hopefully they're coming here with a peaceful intent. But given all that is happening and what little answers we have so far," he says, "I feel as if maybe this is the best measure that we have currently right now working for us." At that point, he quietly sets himself up in the shadows of the trees, takes his crossbow out, and readies a bolt. Ezekiel readies his warhammer and joins Bjorn at the fire. He says, "I'm right here, friend, right beside you. Whatever happens, hopefully the gods have sent us a messenger bearing gifts for us." He says, "They would be truly blessed if that is what it is." At that point, Ezekiel calls out in a bellowing voice, "Ho there! Hello!" The lumbering figure that seems to be moving towards him stops momentarily as if it's getting ready to say something, but then begins to move towards him again. At this point, it's hastening its pace towards their location. Okay. let's get into this, folks, because things are not always what they seem in this realm. At that point, as they are focusing on what is moving towards them underneath this eerie green light that covers the land, as this human gets even closer to the campfire, and as it comes into sight, to their shock, the skin of the human is peeling off. Just the ravaging effects of the cold air and frostbite and everything else that the cold can do to human skin in these extreme temperatures, this thing appears to be suffering from. As it draws closer into the light, and I have to do a perception check, or more or less a spot check, and I'm going to do Bjorn first, the fighter. He is the closest to this thing. I have not put it on the board yet, that's why you do not see it. I am waiting. Gets a +1. He doesn't not notice it first. He's too affixed on the skin that's peeling off and is beginning to turn dark shades of red, turning almost into a purplish, bruised looking type of color. But Zakiel, the cleric, does, however, notice it and utters out in surprise, "By the gods, what is that?" As he can see that its mouth and its head and its arms, which appear to be large, very crude looking stitch work, if you will, almost like a pile of human body parts that have been put together haphazardly and sent out into the world. At that point, this thing comes lumbering into their camp, and without speaking any intelligent words, only making weird grunting type of noises at that point, its eyes affix on the two dwarves here that it can see, and just at that point howls out a roar and begins lumbering towards them. Okay, so how I'm going to do this is Bjorn will be first. He is my fighter, and he's already has his battle axe readied. He at that point is going to put himself in between this creature here and my cleric and swing at that sucker. So let's hope this goes off well. Alright, that is a hit, a total of an 18, and now I get to do my damage. D8 plus. Alright. as his axe comes around, it just cleaves into the flesh, and to Bjorn's surprise, some of the stitching for its arm at that point bust apart, and putrefied blood and what appears to be rotting flesh begin to ooze out of the wound, splattering on the snow. Now I have to see how he's going to react to that right quick before I move on, and I'm going to roll a Constitution save, and I'm going to say it's going to be an 11 or better. 12. He rolled a 12. He's got a hearty stomach, so, but at that point he just turns his head and bellows out a "Oh!" He's like, "By the gods, what foul beast is this?" Okay, now I'm going to have Talu attack, and then I'm going to finish with my cleric, Zakael, and then at that point it will be the creature's turn. And considering this creature is completely unaware of Talu and him being hidden, I'm going to give him a +2 bonus to his roll. Let's see how this goes. Oh, yeah. 19, alright. Alright, and that would be a total of 6. Hey, I'm going to take it with all the bonuses. That works. So, Talu, at that point, kneeling on one knee, has the time to take the patience and line up his shot as best as he can with the melee combat going on, and then releases the crossbow bolt, which flies out, and a thump can be heard as it, at that point, stops into the chest of this creature. The creature bellows out a type of moaning noise, and then at that point, what seems to be a quick moment of pain subsides, and it's almost as if like the creature forgot that it was even shot with a crossbow bolt, and just turns its attention towards Bjorn once again. Zakael at that point steps to the side of Bjorn, and with his warhammer in hand comes swinging in to the side of the creature, almost like a flank attack. Alright. Unfortunately, before the hammer can connect at that point, the creature turns his attention towards Zakael and shifts its mass of body weight to off center, if you will, and the warhammer just narrowly misses the creature. At that point, he turns his attention towards Ezekiel and lets out a bizarre type of noise before it clenches its fists and comes down to attack the cleric. Let's hope it misses. Roll a 4. That's good. So as its fists come down and connect with the earth, it's at that point that Ezekiel is able to quickly, as a dwarf can, be able to dodge the incoming attack, and the sound of his fist just going boom to the frozen earth, and the creature looks up at him, and at this time his eyesight, grotesque eyes that they are, that almost appear as if they are frozen, begin to take an ominous look of determination. Alright, so it's going to go back to Bjorn. And it is now Bjorn's turn. Oh. Nope. Despite all his efforts and bonuses, before his battle axe can connect, the creature is able to dodge the incoming attack of the battle axe. As the creature, at that point, stands to its feet and gets ready to, at this point, what appears to get ready to lunge towards Ezekiel, at that Talu with no time to waste to reload the crossbow, grabs his hand axe and at that point flings it towards the creature in a quick, swift, deadly motion. And let's hope he hits. Oh yeah, oh yeah. 18, that's all he needed. As the axe flies through the cold, bitter night air, finds its mark, and at that point, boom, buries itself into the chest of the creature. The creature at that point, this time, almost it seems its movement has been just totally hampered by some invisible force, and drops to a knee. Its grotesque fingers and fists at that point scratch at the hand axe as it screams out in a murmuring type of scream, trying to remove the weapon from its chest. Once again, Ezekiel at that point steps up with his warhammer, with determination in his eyes. He screams out, "By the power of Odin, whatever matter of evil you are, you shall fall beneath the warhammer and the might of Odin." Let's see if he can keep true to his word on this. Nope, no matter how he tries, he's a cleric. He's just not a very skilled fighter. At that point, before he can even land the attack, the creature is able to narrowly escape his incoming attack, and the warhammer at that point, boom, connects with the frozen earth. The creature at this point almost appears to have a reckoning of fear, if you will, for a brief moment, but then at that point turns his attention back towards Bjorn, and it seems as if a flurry of confusion that is happening here with this creature. He begins to, at that point, pull himself to his feet and begin to lumber towards Bjorn again, and brings his fists up in the air. Hopefully he doesn't hit him. We will see what happens. As he lunges towards Bjorn and his fists come down and he's with this look of hatred in his eyes, Bjorn is able to sidestep his attack. And the creature once again misses, now closer to the fire and more illuminated. Its grotesque features can be seen even more. To their surprise, they can see it's a human that's made up of multiple human body parts all sewn together. And almost as if it's like somebody went to a graveyard and decided to assemble a human being just to see if it would, well, if it could do anything, and it was set forth onto the world for whatever reason, unbeknown to them. Bjorn at that point winds up his battle axe and screams, "To hell with you!" Whew. But unfortunately, despite his efforts, he is unable to finish the attack through, and his axe falls short of hitting its mark. Talu, seeing what's going on with everything happening and knowing that at any moment's notice this could go just horribly, horribly wrong, at that point he grabs his dagger and throws his dagger as quickly as he can, and let's hope it hits its mark. Well, he's doing very good tonight. Alright. Plus his bonus, he does hit. He has an 18. And at that point, let's roll his damage. The dagger at that point, bam, cracks him right into the back. The creature at that point lets out another loud moaning, and using one of its arms is trying to retrieve the dagger out of its back, and is at that point flopping around the bonfire, trying to, at that point, remove a dagger from its back. Okay, so I am going to, let's hope, oh man, I really, 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 really hope the cleric can bring it home on this one. At that point, Zakael winds his battle axe up And as the creature notices him out of the corner of his eye, and then at that point, as they meet eyes, the last thing this creature sees in this world is Ezekiel the cleric standing above him with a rune script of Odin on his chest plate of armor as he brings the axe down, screaming, "To hell with you!" And the warhammer at that point connects with the skull of this creature. Let's see how much. Hopefully, this thing is done after this. As the warhammer comes down, the force behind it just crack, and its skull at that point collapses. Its putrid eyes are ejected from its eye sockets, and it's with its skull caved in. The creature falls to its side at that point, shaking uncontrollably. And the smell, overwhelming smell of putrid blood and organs smell begin to permeate the air. Talu steps out from the shadows and makes his way over quickly to this creature, and without any hesitation at that point retrieves his hand axe and then takes his other leg, pushing the creature to his front side and grabbing his dagger and withdrawing it from its back. Talu looks up over him and he says, "I think we need to move now." He says, "I don't know what this thing is. I don't know why it came here. But for whatever reason, something attracted it to us." And he says, "If there is anybody over there at that other bonfire," he says, "I think we have a better chance of survival with more people." Because he said, whatever this thing was, if we were to meet up with more than one at a time, he said, "I don't think we'd be able to survive it." At that point, they're going to remove this from the board. Alright. At that point, Talu is going to take point, leading them across the landscape towards their destination point, which is much farther out towards the horizon, over the snowy mountains, I guess is the word I should have actually been looking for. And they begin their long trek away from the safety and warmth of their fire, or so they thought, out into the darkness of the eerily lit green magical light show that is currently at that point dancing across this cold, unrelenting landscape. Alright. So I'm going to move them up here, and okay, so 3 hours of travel they've made it up towards getting closer towards the peak of this mountainous area, heading towards where they can see the bonfire light in the distance. Let's see if there's any encounters. Oh man. Yep. Alright. So I have an encounter. I'm gonna roll a 1d6. On a roll on even, it's gonna be a monstrous encounter. And on an odd, it's gonna be an environmental encounter. A 5, environmental. Let's let me re-roll that again. Ooh, okay. That'll work. That'll work actually very well. As they are nearing the peak, they see another humanoid, or human, I should say, silhouette approaching them. At that point, the dwarves ready their weapons, preparing for possibly another one of those creatures, whatever it was, to attack them. Roll here. It's at that point they hear a voice that says, "By the gods, over here, please, help me. At that point, they have their weapons ready, prepared for anything, and as the person draws closer to them, they can, at that point, are able to identify that it is what appears to be a traveling merchant, perhaps lost, and he has a large fur cloak wrapped around him tightly as he's trudging through the snow, and he looks bitterly cold. And he says, "Please, over here, I need help." At that point, Bjorn, grasping his battle axe and taking a better grip upon it, he says, "What do you want?" He said, please, he said, I was on my way traveling to the village the village. He says, of course I was traveling somewhere. He said, I was traveling from my homeland out this way to the village of Stormmeyer, and to see my sister, of course, who's deathly ill. He said the caravan I was traveling with, everything seemed to be normal, but then he says, out of nowhere, this blinding snow and these bizarre lights just fell upon us. Next thing we know, he said I was lost in this heavy fog, and he goes, the only thing I could find as I walked around was, he said, was this fur. He said the cart was just like splintered, as if like something had torn it from limb to limb, if you will. Just
there was just splinters everywhere. I don't know how else to explain it. He said, I couldn't find anybody else. I've been, he says, wandering in the cold. You're the first people I've ran across. He says, I heard some weird, what almost sounded like moans or cries coming from this area. It sounded almost like human. And I came this way to, well, to investigate to see if it was perhaps somebody with my caravan. Bjorn, at that point, he says, we have seen nobody this way. We're the only ones. He says, we're making it to the next bonfire over there on the horizon. He says, if you care to join us, you're more than welcome. He says, but I will tell you, any funny business whatsoever, he says, I will cut you down. At that point, the man, he says, no, I understand. I understand. I want to check one other thing. As he moves to adjust his fur cloak, if you will. It's not a cloak, it's actually like a fur blanket that he's got wrapped around him. It's at that point that Talu catches a glimpse of a tattoo and recognizes it immediately. And he says, so, he says, the Crimson Dawn. And he looks up at him, and the man's like, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Before the man can even finish his words, at that point, Talu draws a dagger and quickly takes it to his throat. And he tells him, he says, your arm, the tattoo. He said, show me the tattoo or I will slit your throat. At that point, the man looks at him and he says, friend, please, we shouldn't be fighting amongst ourselves. We should be working together to try to figure out what this nightmare is and what's going on. And do you think, Tammy? Please, let's just head to where the next fire over there that your companion here was telling us about. It's at that point Talut says, show me the tattoo or you die. At that point, the man with a very angry look in his eye at that point flips the blanket back and allows him to view the tattoo on his arm. He's like, the Crimson Dawn. He looks over at him and he says, I don't trust him. He says, chances are he's got companions out here somewhere just waiting to bandits to come out of nowhere, ambush us and kill us right where we sit. He said, I doubt he even has a sister out this way, and he's heading towards a village. He says, more than likely, he's the one that sent that thing into the camp. At that point, the man looks at him and he goes, thing, what are you talking about, thing? At that point, Bjorn takes a deep sigh and he says, okay. He said, if there's one thing that my friend knows, he says, that's thieves. thief guilds, assassins. And he said, and I take his word over anyone else's. He says it's just slightly suspicious that we get attacked over there by that fire, and you just so happenly to come trudging through the snow with the story of only being the lone survivor of an attack, and this caravan splintered to just shreds everywhere about the ground. He says, I agree with Tala. I don't believe you're being very truthful with us, friend. Alright, so let me see what he's going to, how he's going to react to this. He at that point looks at him and he's like, no, of course not. He says, I'm no longer with, he says, yes, at one time in my life, I was part of the guild, and yes, I had connections. He goes, I'm not proud of it, but he says, you can't be serious. He says, you really seriously think that this is some kind of elaborate trap that no, why would I even think of doing that? He said, he goes, I can't believe what I'm hearing. He said, no, I think, maybe we could go separate ways. Maybe, he says, I don't feel very comfortable here. At that point, a fog bank begins to move in, and its tendrils begin to, at that point, wisp and move in cyclonic movements as it fills the area they are in. It's at that point Bjorn is filled with rage in which he cannot explain. The only thing he can focus on is this man that appears to be lying to him as he, at that point, is perceiving it. Excuse me. And flashes of memory come to mind of his cousin at that point when he was a child, laying on the Tradeway Road with his throat slit, all of his items removed, and the only thing left behind that gave him any idea of what could have possibly happened to him was a torn piece of fabric that bared the insignia of the Crimson Dawn. Before Bjorn can even rationalize a thought, before he can even completely understand what is happening with him, at that point, the battle axe, he just quickly, and with one swift movement, as if like he was splitting wood, moves the axe up above the NPC's head. Get to my character sheet here. before the man can even react, and as Talu and Ezekiel witness this event, the axe comes down, cleaving right into the man's skull, and the blood spurts out into the snow and into the fog. The man struggles for a moment as if he can't believe that the life at this point is draining away from him, and he slumps to the ground. Bjorn takes his boot, puts it on his forehead, and then with one movement removes his battle axe from his head and kicking his head back at the same time. As he stands there, he looks out of the corner of his eye at his companions with blood dripping off the blade of his axe, and he says, "I didn't believe a word that man had to say. He said, I think it's time for us to go. He says, I don't know if you noticed, but the fog has moved in again. And something about it is chilling me to my very soul." At that point, he rests the handle of the axe against his shoulder and begins to walk away from the remains of the NPC towards the campsite bonfire, off in the horizon that they seek. As they walk off into the night, what can only be observed in a third person view, if you will, is them walking off into the weird, bizarre green light of the Aurora Borealis dancing upon the night sky, glimmering off of the snowy hill landscape as they walk into a thick fog bank, which looks like two large hands that grasp them in a strangling motion, and their silhouettes disappear into the night. Alright, my friends, I'm gonna end my game session 2 here, and yeah, I'm going to, I liked how this is going. I like how everything is going so far. So if you have liked this video, please click the like button, let me know you liked the content. And if you have not subscribed, you're new here, click that subscribe button, followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you'll get a notification so you don't miss one. Alright, my friends, this is Artichoke Dip, signing off.